Harry's penalty cock-up. Hello, I'm H.G. Tudor. Harry recently appeared on ZDF, German television. I explained to you in parts passim about how that was going to take place and, of course, how his handler had presented difficulties by laying down a number of demands about what she required, which included expensive helicopter transport, and the Germans basically said, no, you're not wanted. That put the kibosh on that. Nevertheless, Harry made his appearance, and in so doing, he took part in a penalty shootout with Boris Pistorius, the German defence minister. Unfortunately, Harry continued a tradition of England not doing very well in penalty shootouts with Germany, where he failed to convert any of his 6 shots. Oh dear, I'm sure he was thinking to himself, normally when I shoot, I score. Nevertheless, he botched it all up. Boris Pistorius, however, slotted home 2 of his 3 shots and thus won, prompting Harry to remark that Boris Pistorius ought to be the new German football manager, to which Mr. Pistorius responded, I've got enough troubles. But what does this demonstrate? Well, although there is plenty of opportunity to take the piss out of Harry as a consequence of his failure to slot home any of the penalties, it demonstrates his willingness to put himself out there in support of a cause that he believes in. It also allows him to behave in a much more natural manner because his handler isn't there, pushing him in the middle of his back, utilising the grip of doom by holding his hand, steering him, walking in front of him when he's trying to talk to people, insisting that she enter the middle of the group. Furthermore, you'll notice, if you've actually seen the footage, that Harry's countenance is much improved when he's not alongside her. Often, he looks tense, anxious, grumpy, frowning, and that is a consequence of the increased anxiety he feels whenever he is with his wife because of the fact that she's controlling him. It occurs as a consequence of the fact that he's in the sustained devaluation still, meaning that she largely uses malign manipulations against him. Now, in the context of a public appearance, what that will mean is that she will not turn round and be nasty to him because she maintains the facade, but there'll be a little whispered comment, stop making a fool of yourself. But also the physical control that she asserts over him, which to the uninitiated just looks like she's being caring, holding his hand, gesturing by placing her hand on the small of his back. But those of you who know my work recognise that that is a physical assertion of control over him and is part of his sustained devaluation. Namely, I tell you where to stand. I keep control of you by keeping a close grip upon you. I move you to where you need to stand. And therefore, Harry, who of course, as you know, has strong narcissistic traits and has largely been able to always do what he wants to do, finds himself in a position where his wife's behaviour is rather unwelcome. Nobody likes to be told what to do, and certainly Harry doesn't. But with his wife, he feels that he has no choice because alternatives are not available to him. If he disobeys, then the manipulations of a malign nature become worse once they return behind closed doors. It's useful to see with such instances as the penalty shootout how different Harry is when his wife is not around, and also how well received he is by people. He does have the ability to genuinely connect with people, and he's a good sport in the sense that he's up for things, that he'll engage in them, and he likes to meet people. He clearly believes in the Invictus Games and demonstrates his support for them by going on television the way that he did and taking part in this fun activity. As I mentioned, because he missed the penalties, there's the opportunity to take the piss out of him, but it also provides the opportunity to see how he embraces this kind of behaviour. Contrast this with his wife. Remember when she went to Ellen DeGeneres and she attempted to show everybody her fun side by sucking on a baby bottle and doing the squats. What was the reaction to all of that? Did anybody think, oh, Lorks, isn't she fun? I'd like a night out with her. She's one crazy lady. And not in the sense of being a nutcase, but rather crazy fun. No. The response, of course, was that people took the piss out of her. Why? Well, mainly because even at that stage, being a couple of years ago, she wasn't liked, and there were plenty of people waiting to criticise her as a consequence of this activity. Furthermore, people recognised that it was yet more attention-seeking from her, which, translated through her narcissism, is the attempt to assert control over people and draw fuel from them. But also, it's because she lacks any natural warmth. Whereas Harry has it, and for instance, the Prince and Princess of Wales have it in spades, she does not. And the reason for that is that she has no emotional empathy. And therefore, because she has no emotional empathy, she is devoid of a natural warmth. She doesn't actually know at an emotional level how to connect with people. Through her narcissism, she knows how to connect people to her from the point of view of leeching from them. But she doesn't know or understand, because she has no capacity for emotional empathy, to exhibit a natural warmth towards them. It can be only manufactured. And furthermore, because she's had a charisma bypass and has no sense of humour, when she engages in these things, she does a representation of what she thinks is humorous, but it falls flat. Usually because this is a consequence of trying too hard. In a way, it's like overacting. Because she doesn't have any emotional empathy, her narcissism attempts to replicate it. As a mid-range narcissist, she does have cognitive empathy. She's able to demonstrate what she believes is compassion, what she believes is caring. But to the trained eye, one can see through it. And it certainly shows when it comes to her getting involved in some kind of fun activity. It just doesn't translate because she lacks the charisma, she lacks the humour, she lacks the emotional empathy. So it's useful to contrast events such as this, where Harry takes part in a fun penalty shootout, and the banter that he engages with. Whatever you may think about Harry, and I know many of you have increasingly disliked him as a consequence of his conduct, you can't take away from the fact that he is actually quite natural with people, and that's something that he has as a consequence of his own emotional empathy. Contrast the way that he conducts himself in situations when his wife isn't around, compared to the way that she conducts herself, and you will see that they are worlds apart. Even though there was a penalty cock-up by Harry, it does enable you to see his ability to engage with an audience, that there is a genuine warmth and interest exhibited by him, which is completely different to the way that his wife behaves, because she wants it to be all about her. Even in the course of the interview on German television, Harry sought to steer it back to talking about the people that are injured rather than about him. His wife simply wouldn't do that. We've seen so many times where it's all about her. Witness the speech that she gave at Bridgewater Hall just over a year ago, where I think she mentioned herself 57 times. The speech was awful, boring. It would send a glass eye to sleep. But it exhibits the way that she's so self-absorbed when it comes to dealing with members of the public, which is a contrast to the behaviour of Harry. I'm H.G. Tudor. Thank you for listening.